So here we are, getting set to head to New Orleans.
Yeah.
For our 11th Super Bowl that we're going to cover. 11th.
Wow.
The first one we ever covered way back in the day was in Arizona between the New England Patriots trying to win their first Super Bowl since Brady went back-to-back. And it had been a long time.
Yep.
And he had lost twice to Eli Manning in the interim. And here he is going up against a team trying to become the first back-to-back team since Brady's Patriots. And sure enough, Pete Carroll's Seahawks are right there on the goal line with somebody named Marshawn Lynch to run it. And we all know they decided to throw it. And instead of taking the lead, the game was over when a guy named Malcolm Butler, who I don't think anybody outside of New England maybe had ever heard of, and certainly inside of New England had ever heard of, just steps in front of what would have been the go-ahead touchdown, if not game-winning touchdown pass, to seal a back-to-back Super Bowl run for a dynastic Seattle Seahawks team. We were going to talk about a dynasty in that respect. And Malcolm Butler steps in front, and it's crazy, man. I have never in my entire life seen an entire stadium filled with one fan base crying at one moment and the other one elated at the same moment. And then in a flip of a switch, the team's fans that were elated were now crying, and the ones who were crying were now elated. I've never seen anything like it in my entire life. And now here we are in 2025. That was Super Bowl 49. We're getting set for Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans. And on this very day, Pete Carroll is now back in the National Football League as a head coach, and it's for the Las Vegas Raiders. And the ownership group that hires him includes Tom Brady. So we are sitting here saying Tom Brady is 100% in control of the coaching search in Las Vegas. And his first hire as a part owner in the National Football League, his first hire is Pete Carroll. And they're giving him reportedly a 3-year deal to do it. And Pete Carroll will, when the Raiders take the field with him wearing silver and black, will be the oldest head coach in the history of the National Football League. And we will hear a lot about age, certainly since this man is being hired at age 73 and 131 days on planet Earth. And he is older than the guy who's coaching North Carolina right now and had a $10 million buyout. And Tom Brady reportedly called in recent weeks to say, do you want out and do you want in? And that guy's Bill Belichick, who was the winning head coach of Super Bowl 49 that day. I can't tell you how mind-blowing this all is. Can't make it up. Belichick is technically available. I know they sent out his redacted contract. He signed it.
Signed it.
You know, and I know, you know, our friend Lombo has been going all around. Speaking of Vegas, you know, Lombo, you know, previously Vegas resident, I imagine, telling everybody he's focused on North Carolina football, folks. And that said, you know, I don't know if this could have been possible, but instead of Belichick being Tom Brady's first hire as a head coach, it's the guy he beat in Super Bowl 49 and the guy that Belichick succeeded in New England. Unbelievable. You want to keep just going crazy about how you can't make this stuff up. Aaron Glenn just got hired as the head coach of the New York Jets. He was a former first-round selection in 1994 for the Jets. He's now coaching the Jets. Do you know the coach of the Jets was in 1994?
Yeah, Pete Carroll.
Pete Carroll.
Yeah.
And he was one of the youngest head coaches in the history of the NFL, and the Jets hired him.
Yep.
And Pete will now be the 7th head coach in NFL history to be the head coach for at least one game for 4 or more different teams. He joins Wade Phillips, who's the leader in the clubhouse with 6, because there were some interim, right? Jimmy Conzelman with 5, Roy Andrews with 5, Guy Chamberlain with 4, Bill Parcells with 4, and Marty Schottenheimer, son of maybe the next dad of the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, Marty Schottenheimer. Can't make it up.
Amazing.
Now, let me just say this about the hire of Pete Carroll. We are, again, going to hear all about how old he is. And if there's any human being that I've ever met in person and know for whom age is just a number, it's this guy. Okay? It's this guy. Anybody who's out here saying he's an old man, you take your shirt off when you meet DK Metcalf and see if you stack up.
Good point.
Now, the one thing you are going to get with Pete, unlike the other coaches that you have in the league that are being hired, and we just said goodbye to Ben Johnson, and I'm like, what's your style? What's your coaching philosophy? What's this? What's that? And we did get a lot of, because the guy's going to have to prove it. And I'm also asking, how are you going to coach Caleb Williams? What are you going to do to actually, coach him up? And he gave an honest answer, and look, I got to get him on the grass.
Yeah.
I got to get him in the building. I got to get him in the playbook. I got to sit down with him and find out what he likes and dislikes.
Watch film and
do all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Pete Carroll, there's no question what you're going to get with him. You're going to get a team that's going to play the heck out of the defensive side and is going to run the ball on offense and is going to utilize a play action game with your passer who will have, one would assume, the mobility to make this play action stuff work. We have seen it. It has been proven. We know exactly what it is. His mantra is always compete. And his mantra is doesn't matter where you are in the depth chart. If you compete, you have a chance to get the starter role. And the guy who's personified that more than anyone else is Russell Wilson, who
is a free agent.
I understand, which would be completely wild. Because that is going to be the ultimate question. We'll get to that in a second as to who the quarterback is.
Oh.
But when you just look at it, and Brady knows. And it kind of dovetails in. Tom competed his ass off all the time.
Had to.
And anybody who was open, he threw to, and you better be ready because Tom was ready to throw it to you, and you better have knowledge of what needs to be done and where to be and have the accountability. And the guy who personifies that is Pete Carroll. When you think about it, the crazy thing is this may be more of a Brady hire than maybe Belichick is. Because if Tom ever spent some of his time in New England saying, I like the accountability stuff, and I like the situational smart stuff, I like the defense stuff, I like the offense that, possesses the ball and can maybe be a quick strike if need be. I kind of dig all that stuff. What I don't really dig,
it's being screamed at.
Yeah, I kind of didn't like the overall seriousness of it.
Constantly earhold.
All that stuff about, the Philadelphia Eagles when they beat the Patriots. It was like, we're not only winning, we're having more fun than you are.
Yeah.
Do you know who likes to have fun? Pete Carroll likes to have fun.
Isn't he on like a scooter or something?
Yeah, that video that because the Seahawks would have they had the social media team had a camera right in the middle of the Seattle facilities sort of main thoroughfares meeting, and he came through on a scooter. And other people were like dribbling a basketball, and it kind of looked like the circus was coming to town. But I also remember when we were in Munich and the Seahawks flew in, and they were bouncing around their practice, and they were going out for bowling to celebrate Drew Lock's birthday, and they just loved this guy. They loved him. All the people who are literally a third of Pete's age, they loved him. They absolutely loved him. Now, they did lose in Munich to, wait for it, Tom Brady. So Tom's played against Pete. Tom's beaten Pete. Tom's well aware of who he just hired. The crazy thing is, you know what would be perfect for Pete Carroll is the guy they just let walk to Green Bay. And Josh Jacobs. That would have been nice to have Josh around right now to say, okay, you know what we're going to do? We're going to run the ball. You know what we're going to run it with? Josh Jacobs. You had him in the building, man. But again, Pete is one of those guys. Just compete. Your second string, your third string, doesn't matter. Play your ass off. Practice hard. You're going to get your shot. That's why Pete's teams are always, successful in a way that, next man up was never a dangerous thing there. And obviously, who's going to be the quarterback? That one I don't know. And I don't know how you could figure that out in the 3 years that Pete's got a contract for.
Russell Wilson could be a bridge guy.
Man, could you imagine? I don't know.
I don't know. I saw someone, in the
bridge to who, though? A bridge to who?
A bridge to who?
There's
is
nobody
the
that's on the roster that you're going to bridge something to.
Right. You'd have to draft someone, obviously. Could it be, why not Quinn Ewers?
At 6th overall?
No, maybe second round, early second round.
I don't know. Maybe it's Shador.
Pick.
Maybe it's Shador.
Yeah, he could definitely fall. Who
and
knows?
you know who I think would get along famously with Pete? His prime. I know.
Didn't Tom's clothing company had an NIL with Shador for a minute there?
Dude, I'm just saying, you're the oldest coach in the history of the NFL with a son of Deion Sanders playing for the Las Vegas Raiders in Pete Carroll's 4th go-around as a head coach in the National Football League for Tom Brady in Las Vegas. Honestly, that's the world. These are all proper nouns that don't fit the Mad Lib.
Yeah.
When I first started with NFL Network 22 years ago, when Pete Carroll was the head coach at USC, coming into NFL Total Access, asking Susie, who was covering USC at the time, hey, I wouldn't mind going on NFL Network. And we're like, we could have Pete Carroll come in here? Absolutely, come and sit down. And he did the Pete Carroll thing. Great segment, amazing segment. I loved it. And then he just says to one of the analysts, walk me out to the car. Guy was Ken Norton. You know who he hired? Mr. UCLA himself, Ken Norton. Put him on the staff. He went up to Seattle with him. Everything's outside of the box with this guy. Always.
So if Pete comes on game day this year, are you going to lose Kurt?
Well, I'm going to have my head on a swivel. That's what you're asking.
By the way, Kurt is OC. Now we're talking.
Oh, here we go. Bring it on.
I've often said he should be coaching. I know he's got a great game with you.
It's off Kurt, everybody.
But
Get out of here.
He's got a mind for football, man.
But I think this is why I'm just basically, listen, we said it last hour, I'll say it again here. Anytime somebody's hired as a head coach in the NFL, people are like, oh, he's too old, he's too dumb, he's too bad, he's too green, he's too this, he's too that. We don't know. And yeah. And the people are like, oh, that's a perfect hire. That is a great guy. His philosophy is amazing. People want to run through a wall for him. Blah, blah, blah.
You never know.
You never know, because the quarterback situation may go to crap, and then all of a sudden everybody's gone. Or in the same way, like I said last hour, when the Yankees had a ton of young players and they had just made the playoffs, and Don Mattingly hits a home run for the first time in his playoff career, and I'm thinking this is the greatest thing ever. They fire Buck Showalter and hire a retread in Joe Torre, and everyone in New York's like, really? The former Met guy? What's he going to do? He turned out to be perfect. Oh, the old guy with Don Zimmer is going to really talk to Derek Jeter? Yeah, Jeter called him Mr. Torrey. And guess what? They won a ton of rings together. So you never know. And in terms of you never know, it's Super Bowl 59 and Super Bowl 49. Tom Brady gets his ring and starts another stretch of 3 Super Bowls in 5 years after getting 3 in his first 4 and then none in between. And the guy he beat was Pete Carroll, who he just hired. It's his first hire as an owner in the NFL. Get out of here. You can't make it up. So who knows? And when you think about it, in the AFC West, if you need to go against Andy Reid, you need to go against Sean Payton, you need to go against Jim Harbaugh. Who knows if you're going against Jim Harbaugh? From UFC Stanford to Seattle versus San Francisco to now Raiders versus Chargers twice a year. What's your deal, bro? Sean Payton just made the playoffs with Bo Nix. Andy Reid might be a three-peat head coach when he faces Pete Carroll as the young whippersnapper. Oh, and you want to talk about age? The average age of the coaches on the screen right now are 65. Who cares? We talk about Andy Reid's age coming up on Sunday. Will we talk about it 2 Sundays after that? No. You certainly won't talk about it with Pete, who I think could go through a day much better and navigate it than people literally half his age.
Probably.
My son goes and hangs out with his friends and wants to take a bath when he comes home. He's a teenager.
I mean, baths.
That's a bad idea, right? It's not a bad idea.
I put up a poll. Who's the second best head coach in the AFC West?
All right, go check it out.
Jim Harbaugh, Sean Payton, Pete Carroll.
It's unbelievable. Vegas, man. Vegas. Oh, my gosh.
Let's go. Who wants to go tonight?
Pete and Carl Reiner are going to go bust in Terry Benedict's vault tonight, man.
Wow.
What a caper. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.